Welcome to the Unapologetically Unstoppable Women podcast, the show where ambition is celebrated, not silenced. Lori, Ann, and Angie are your hosts, and each week we dive into real, unfiltered conversations about women doing extraordinary things in their lives and in their businesses. Here we don't shrink to fit expectations or apologize for our success. We share stories that are inspiring, hilarious, and always authentic, because becoming unstoppable isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and join our community of women who know that no is a complete sentence and there are no limits to what we can achieve together. Hello. How is everyone doing today? Welcome to another episode of the Unapologetically Unstoppable Women podcast. Ann Hunter, Lori Piper, and myself, Angie Giltner, are here to engage in a really interesting conversation about leadership. And leadership is one of those topics that is so broad, right? And it covers so many different things, and it hits people differently. People have different definitions of leadership. One of the things we're really going to dive into today is, some leadership challenges that women face, because we face different challenges than men when it comes to leadership. But the other piece of it that is, I think, super critical is without sacrificing ourselves or our families or our personal lives, we're not, we're going to talk about like how to not sell your soul to the devil to get to where you want to be when it comes to rising up through leadership. And you can be a leadership in a volunteer position. You can be a leadership in your community, on whether, you could be on a board, it could be in your career, it could be in your business. I mean, there's lots of opportunities to demonstrate leadership. And I would even say is you're a leader within your own family. And that's something that doesn't often, we don't often think about ourselves as leaders. But like, I'm personally not a parent, but I have nieces and nephews, and they watch me. They look to see, what does Aunt Angie do? How does Aunt Angie respond? How does Aunt Angie behave in these certain scenarios? So whether we like it or not, we get placed in leadership positions. And so how do we handle it?
I even lead my animals. I say please and thank you to my animals. So
Oh, nice.
that might be taking it a bit too far, but I do.
They deserve respect as well.
Yes. They have feelings.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Yeah. Being in a place of leadership, I mean, you feel there's almost for me, there's great joy in it. But there's also I don't want to say fear, but I just, for me personally, I liked just doing my job. And when I was in corporate, I worked for a wonderful manager. I loved him to death. But he's like, Lori, we're going to put you on the fast track. You're going to be climbing that corporate ladder. And I'm like, whoa, I don't want to. I like leading my projects. I like, but I like doing the work. I'm not someone to sit, I don't want to sit there and figure out budgets and, what do we need for, Q3 and that's not, I have no interest in that whatsoever. But I do like being a leader in my project. So getting, who else do I need from my company to help me in this project? Who do I need on the client side to help with this project? And getting that all organized and making sure that when I walk in to do an installation or a presentation, I have what I need. almost to the point of being very anal about it. There are people like, Lori, why are you doing it? Because I know everything that didn't work in the last, like, in the last 20 years, things that didn't work. So here is what I know will work. And here's what I know will make it a smooth job. So that's my that's my joy in leadership is being able to organize projects, but not an organization. It's just not me.
Well, we'll say being anal is being thorough. I mean, it's really just being thorough, right? Like,
Yes, exactly, exactly. And you know what? You know who didn't like it? The guys.
ah,
They were like, "What? Just go in and do it." I'm like, "Okay, but no, actually, no, it's not okay because it doesn't help me, the client, or the company if I have to drive 2 hours or fly out to a site only to realize that they're not ready. It doesn't make sense. That's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. So, yeah, they didn't necessarily always agree with me, but because I led that project, they kind of had to do it.
I love that.
I think you guys know I do the I'm certified in the six working geniuses, so it's the six
Oh,
geniuses.
yeah.
I am in the middle, so there's like high level, middle level, and kind of boots on the ground. I'm not a boots on the ground person, even though I have to be because I run my own business. But I am a cheerleader and a supporter. And that's my natural leadership is to cheer you on while you're doing whatever you're doing and offer support in however I can support you. So people, I think, often think that leadership is telling people what to do or managing. And sometimes it's being that voice that says, you are doing a great job.
Mm.
I mean, it doesn't have to be anything super complicated. It doesn't have to be the budgets and the organizational planning and the succession planning. And I mean, certainly that's a part of leadership, but it can be as easy as just walking in and just changing somebody's day with a nice word.
Yeah. Yep. I know when
Okay.
every time I have been on any kind of team, um, my natural ability is to take charge, like because I have that type of a personality and stuff. But I've learned over the years as I've grown my emotional intelligence that even though I may be the leader of the team, everyone's a leader. Everyone has their respective role that they're in charge of, and they're leading in that charge, and so, but it took me time to really learn that emotional intelligence, to not just come in and say, hey, taking over, this is that, and you do, this is your expertise, so you there and you there, that type of thing. Because what I found was a lot of times when I did that, there would be women on my team who would say, but I want to learn a different role. I want to learn a different skill. And I wasn't awarding them the ability to be able to do that because I went to their natural zone of genius and said, look, you're so good at that. I'm going to have you take care of that task. And they're like, well, how can I grow and learn if I'm stuck in you keep sticking me in my zone of genius? And I was like, I'll never forget, like, I'll just never forget that team that I had put together for a project I was working on. And I was like, oh, you're right. And I wasn't being a very good leader then, because I think part of leadership is a lot of listening and understanding, and I was doing a lot of talking and delegating, and that wasn't demonstrating leadership.
And she did a great job about asking for what she wanted and what she needed to grow. I mean, because that's leadership. I also think everybody thinks if you're a follower, you're not a leader. And I disagree. If you
Right.
follow with confidence and you do, not everybody wants to be the head of a project. Not, like
Right.
you can be the best leader in the world by just setting the example of being a good follower, doing what you're told without, the water cooler negative chit chat and all that kind of stuff, being happy in that, hey, this person's asked me to do this. Not only am I going to do it, I'm going to make sure that everybody else who's on this project is doing it as well. And that there's no negativity. We're just getting the job done.
Yep.
And I know, Lori, I know you saw that in corporate.
Oh yeah, the water cooler thing.
Just in general.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can't tell you. I actually, this was later on. I had to ask my boss. This is before COVID, before it was, normal for people to work from home. I asked my boss, can I work from home? First of all, my equipment was better.
Mhm.
Secondly, I had work to do and we were in cubicles. And I mean, it was almost constant in the office, especially if everybody was there for like the weekly meeting or something. Like I couldn't get anything done because it was constant chatter about soccer games and buying raffle tickets, you know, and that's great. That's camaraderie. It's beautiful. I loved hanging out with people, going to dinner or lunch and stuff like that. But when I've got, 1,000 emails I can't get to, and my three number ones on my list, I know I won't even get to that day because they changed.
Mm.
It was so frustrating for me to not be able to concentrate. And so I had to ask, I mean, and I love the people I worked with, but I'm like, I need quiet. I need to accomplish something.
Mhm.
But it was like it's lovely to have that camaraderie. I love them. We still talk. But there are still limits. I had clients counting on me. And anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of, and there was a lot of negative talk, but I'll have to say a lot of it was just like, talking about kids' sports and buy raffle tickets. But yes, there was a lot of negativity, in the corporate, more so our headquarters than I was in one of the smaller, um, offices.
I
I think,
think one of the things, so we're talking about the challenges that face women. I think the biggest challenge is that we're in 2025 still trying to do things the old way. You get paid for 40 hours a week. Well, if
mm,
I can do my job in 25 hours, you're paying me to do the job, not to work 40 hours. So I
right.
think that's one of the biggest challenges. I was reading an article just this week that people are more comfortable leaving work early than coming in late. Well, if you've done your work for the day and there's no reason for you to have AIS, then leave. So I
Right.
think that's the challenge, is that how do we pay people, get past the mindset where we pay them for 40 hours a week and we pay them for completion of the work. And if they can do it in less time, then so be it.
I wish I only had to work 40 hours a week.
Okay, I'm just putting a number, but
Yeah, the great thing about being salaried, was that we were expected to do our job. I mean, that's just that it is what it is. And, part of this is, without sacrificing family or self, I sacrificed a lot of self, because I traveled a lot. So, I was always working more than, I shouldn't say always, mostly working more than 40 hours a week. Um, and a lot of it was travel but there were times that it's like, all right, I finished what I really, really need to finish. And actually a lot of times the boss would say, come on, everybody, we're out of here. We're gonna go hit the pub, get some food and beverage. So there was also, but yeah, 40 hours a week, that would be nice.
Well, as an entrepreneur, yeah, it seems like, I often joke about how do I monetize laying in bed at night thinking about my business. How do I monetize that because, although it's not the proverbial quote unquote work, it still is, because
Yes.
like, so I'm on, as you know, I'm on the local school board, and like it's back to school season and we're having open houses,
Mm.
and so like last night I spent a lot of time talking with our middle school kids and families, and I left there and my mind was just like reeling with different things based on what people said and what the kids feedback was and what some of the teachers feedback was, and I'm like, how do I monetize this? Because it's, and I try really hard. I don't like the word compartmentalizing because it makes it seem like, um, I don't know. It just, I guess because I don't like being in a box. When I think of compartmentalizing it, I just feel like you're putting everything in a box, and I don't like that. Don't put me in a box. But um,
I don't
you know,
think there's a box that would hold you, Angie.
no, no, I'm breaking out of whatever it is. And so, but that's like, but as leaders, that's what happens. So we get, ideas will come to us at random times. Like for me, it's in the shower. That's a visual y'all wanted today, I know. But
I know I need a waterproof computer screen in the shower so that when something
Yes.
I can hurry and type it out and then
Yes.
finish taking my shower.
Yes. It
yeah,
is a
because
great way. Yes.
it is, because it's like, you're focused on, what you have to do. You have your routine, and your body just kind of goes on autopilot, and so it frees up your mind to be thinking
Mhm.
about other things, but as leaders, that's what happens, is I think one of the major traits of a leader is someone who is continually thinking about improvement and streamlining, and and in retrospect it's like, okay, um we did this, but how can we do it more effectively, more cost effective, more streamlined, better customer experience, all of those types of things. And it's so it seems like, your mind's never really shut off. But much like Lori, that's joyful for me. So I don't feel like I'm sacrificing self. And when I'm in those moments, I mean, me and my boundaries. I will tell my husband, I'm like, okay, I'm like, man, my mind is really clicking here. And I'm like, so I'm just going to go off and take my notepad and I'm just going to take notes. And I'm like, but just don't interrupt me, and so he respects that. And it works out, really, really well. But without sacrificing self, because if he was interrupting me, I would be grumpy. It would impact our relationship, all of those things, and it would impact my family, if I didn't have those healthy boundaries.
Yes.
So how many,
Absolutely.
as we think about the topic, how much of the challenge that women face in the workplace is self-imposed guilt over, do I work an extra 2 hours? So like Lori, you brought up the boss says, hey, let's go grab a drink at the bar. Well, I have to go pick up the kids at 6. So I can't really go grab a drink and then go pick up the kids. So how much of it do you think is self-imposed guilt versus what our boss is actually putting on us?
Um, yeah, because there are times when you feel like you have to be the corporate gal. Um, I was lucky because I was raised by a strong mother. So, um, I if I really didn't want to do something, I had no issue saying no. But there are a lot of women, and I know, one of the ladies I worked with had a hard time telling the boss no. In my opinion, she was doing work that he should have been doing, but she was doing it because he told her to. And you know, there were definitely some dynamics there with women feeling like they had to say yes in order to keep their job or to rise in the ranks and, you know, get better pay. Um, and there was definitely some, I think I might have mentioned this um, in other of these podcasts where there would be women like new sales reps, female sales reps that would be hired, and they'd go to the sales kickoff, and they would come back and resign immediately
Mm.
because of all the testosterone, you know, and but so yeah, there is what I call it guilt. I don't know, I would call it guilt, but maybe a sense of obligation, a sense of fitting in. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
For
Yeah.
me, I felt um because I of some childhood trauma, um I always felt like I had to prove myself, always. And how I proved myself, because I was always told, you know, like by one person, this, you know, and it wasn't my dad, it was my step monster, as I call her. And you know, I'm unlovable, and you know, I'm not worth anything, and just, I mean, just horrible, horrible things. So I always felt like I was proving myself, and how I did that was through hard work. And if I just worked a little bit harder, I could prove that I have value. If I could just work a little bit harder and accomplish this task better than anyone else, I could prove that I'm someone of worth. And that carried on even through college, because I even had some college professors. And in retrospect, um, I had words with one of them after I graduated, and I told her exactly what I felt, and how she treated me was not acceptable. But what she would always say, you know, you have big goals, but you don't have the skills to back it up. And I was like, whoo, you better watch me. You better watch me, because them are fighting words, and I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to prove you wrong. And so I always felt like, until I got wise, I'll just need to say that, until I got wise, I just self-imposed pressure, like, I'm going to show you, you know, and I am going to, everything that you thought about me, I'm going to prove that you are wrong. That is not who I am. I am lovable. I am worthy. I am someone of value, you know. And but how I thought that should be demonstrated was through hard work and extra work and going above and beyond. And so I ended up creating this, where I was super competitive. And so, like, when I was in the social work, we had, as a social worker, which I'm now retired from, but we had productivity obligations, and like 70% of our time was to be spent with face-to-face clients, billable hours, billable hours, billable hours. Well, every month, every single month, I always got more billable hours than everyone. I always had. That was self-imposed. I put that on. I'm like, I'm going to show you, not only am I of worth, you know, and I bring value, but I'm also bringing in the money, you know. And so my productivity was always higher, and I killed myself for it. And so then when I started my business, same thing, killed myself for it, ended up in the hospital, all the things. And I'm like, what am I doing? And then, because I had to learn that where my value, my self-worth, and everything really has to come from the inside, not from the outside. So I did a lot of self-imposed garbage to myself until I got wise and realized that all of those things that people said I had all along inside of me, but I just didn't know how to let it out and let it shine. I was letting it out and letting it shine through hard work, but that really, I mean, I'm still a hard worker. I have one hell of a work ethic, but I know I'm lovable. I know I have value. I know I'm a person of worth. And I genuinely believe that. So now I'm not killing myself and ending up in the hospital, trying to prove that over and over again.
One of the best damn huggers ever.
Well, I
I mean,
relate
we
to
all,
that story so much, Angie, because my real dad growing up told me, I won't tell you what he told me because it wasn't very nice, but I did the same thing. I'm like, I'm going to show you. I'm going to be the best at everything. And I wasn't happy. Like I won the trips, I won the awards, but I was not happy. I did all the stuff at home and at work, and now emotional intelligence, thank goodness it finally kicked in. Now instead of winning the awards, I want to make an impact. So I
Mm,
don't care. I don't want to work myself to death to prove to somebody that isn't even alive anymore that I have
mhm.
value. 100% it came from me. But now that value is, am I providing an impact on other people?
I love it.
beautiful,
Yep.
beautiful.
Yeah. And I think
Mhm.
there's just so many ways. Like even I even like this, the podcast, our Unapologetically Unstoppable Women podcast, I is in our own way is we are demonstrating leadership, and just by being vulnerable, just by sharing,
Mhm.
like how we've overcome things and what it took, and just by being able to share those little tidbits, and also to give other women a voice and permission, and it's like, look, it's okay. Um, stand up for yourself. Like that woman on my team when she said, "How can I learn and grow when you keep sticking me on this one role?" And that was beautiful. And then I had the light bulb moment. So she was truly the leader in that scenario, which in turn made me a better leader. I mean, she
Mhm.
enhanced my skill set just by being assertive. And I think we sometimes discount those little moments of those opportunities that, you know, people come in and out of our lives and share those types of things with us, and how it really can improve who we are as humans.
Mhm. Yeah, one of my earliest, well, I shouldn't say that, but one of my bosses in corporate, she was my manager. We're still friends today. Um, so the the upper management, um, the the men, wanted me to go regional, and my actual direct, um, who I reported to directly, she took me aside and she said, Lori, because she knew me. I mean, I was kind of like, whatever, whatever. And she's like, Lori, this is what you need to do. Determine what you want, what kind of a raise you want, because they're going to try and say, well, you haven't done this before, so we'll wait until. She's like, no, no, no. And so she coached me on how to ask for more money. And I know I was so excited. And then when it's me and two guys in the room, and and so she's my manager, and then her manager, and then the regional manager. And they were like, yeah, but, and then they were giving me everything she told me they were going to throw at me. And I was like, yeah, but if I'm going to be traveling a lot, I'm going to have to pay somebody to take care of my house, my yard. So I mean, I'm just going on, and it's going to be a lot more hours and blah 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 blah. And they caved. They gave me what, because she said, Lori, they want you. They have chosen you. So
Mm,
stand your ground. But how many times, how many times are we actually coached like that?
right.
Especially as women. Men
Yep.
are coached like that.
Yeah, they are.
I've heard many of my guy friends say, oh yeah, they coach me. So, and the sad thing is, as we've been talking, the sad thing is a lot of times the competition is with another woman.
Mm,
So, you know, and Angie, when you were talking about, you know, the gal that worked for you, um, you know, you handled that as a leader, not as someone in competition with, well, you know, I can't let her, you know, get too much praise because, you know, if
Ugh.
she does, you know, then she might get my job. And there is, I have seen that there's more competition between women in corporate, and this is
Mm.
this is going years back, than men in corporate.
I just think there's more competition with women in general, and I don't understand why. What,
Yeah.
and I love that what you said, a female coached you to get to help you get what you deserved in that role because you don't hear those stories often enough. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but you don't hear it often enough where, hey, this woman came in, she tried to help me, she went above and beyond. Like, we should be
Mhm.
doing that for women. I think one of the challenges we face is that we're very often kept in a box. And it's like when women support women, it helps us get out of those boxes that whether they're self-imposed or whatever, or we don't feel like we should ask to get out of it. We don't feel like we have the permission to do anything different. So the more women support women, it's not competition. I don't want to do what everybody else does. I don't want to do it the way they do it. I don't, if, I mean, there's a lot of people in my business just in Columbia, South Carolina. There's enough business for everybody. I don't want to work with every client. I don't want to, and we may talk about the same things because John Maxwell trained and whatever, we have a lot of the same content. We're going to talk about it so differently, and we're going to create our own training so differently. Like, people are going to resonate with me that don't resonate with somebody else. But if you're constantly in competition, you lose all of that. You lose the
Mhm.
ability to learn from somebody and to help somebody else grow. So that's an awesome story. And
Yeah.
I wish we heard more of
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since I've become an entrepreneur and have found women's groups, I'm finding a lot more cooperation and a lot more support from other women because there are so many groups out there anymore where women are truly supporting other women. I just don't know if any of that's getting into the corporate arena at all, or, you know, in the regular, I don't even want to say corporate because it could be other mom and pop shops or something like that. So, um, yeah, or just out in, you know, mom going to softball games and stuff like that. Are they supporting each other? Because you know, fortunately, unfortunately, I don't know. Women still a lot of times women are still the primary caregiver.
Mhm.
And, are we supporting that? Are we competing? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I've realized over the past couple of decades that a lot of that competition, because I'm typically in competition with myself. It's like I want to
Mhm.
break, my Q1 numbers for 2025. I want them to break my Q1 numbers from 2024. So I'm in competition with myself a lot. But what I see, um, in the true competitive sense, is it stems from like those, like Lori, you were saying, like insecurities, imposter
Mhm.
syndrome. And if I fired a coach who I was working with because she wanted me to say things like if somebody asked me a question, like on a sales call, and they said, that you only give so much of the answer, and then you say the rest of the answer is reserved for my coaching clients. And I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
that is
It's
so
icky.
gross. It's so gross. I mean, I fired her. I was like, oh no, I'm not working with you. This is terrible advice. And it
Yeah.
feels so disgusting.
Yeah.
And I think about that all the time. And so it has driven me. Actually, she might have done me a favor because that comment in and of itself has driven me to just provide value, provide value, provide value, provide value, and expect nothing in return. It's just pour in. And in my business, I choose to only work with women. That is just my choice. It's what I prefer. It's what lights me up. And because I'm an entrepreneur, I get to do that. Which I love, and I get to make that decision. And I've had men say, oh, you must be a man hater and blah, blah. I'm not getting into that whole conversation. First of all, it's none of your damn business. And it's what I choose. So what does it matter to you? I'm not. And, but I think sometimes we get, insecure and imposter syndrome based on messages we've heard from the past, or we do that comparison where we look at people we're in competition with. If you're an entrepreneur, someone else who sits in your own space, and whether it's a man or a woman, and you think, oh, they're so much ahead of me, and what are they doing that I'm not? What do they know that I'm not? If you're in the corporate space, even if you're volunteering, and it's like, oh, I can't volunteer for Habitat for Humanity, I don't know how to swing a hammer. Well, but there are other things. If that's something you're passionate about, there are other things that you can do, rather than swing a hammer. You can go out and, just, there's so much things you can do, and there's things that need to be bought. And so I think we limit ourselves based on like assumptions or preconceived notions, or those negative messages or whatever. And as leaders, I love, and this is Anne is brilliant at that, is question it. Where, why is that holding me back? Why is that stopping me? Why am I allowing that to be a barrier? And I love how Anne does that so beautifully all the time.
Yes.
And that's a great tool.
I probably asked why is a lot when I was a kid. I'm just guessing because it comes naturally now. But no, it goes back to emotional intelligence. Like if you take the time to go back and learn, question what you've been told, question why you believe what you believe, question whether what's going on you're doing to yourself or you're allowing somebody to do to you. At first, it feels like work because it is, but it opens up, and I know you both know this, it opens up so much freedom to make choices later on down the road. Because now somebody says something to me, and I'm like, that has way more to do with you than it does with me. So that's rolling off my back because I got my own rocks. I'm not carrying your rocks too.
Ah, love that. Love that visual. And just like you say, similar to that, and forgiveness is not for the person who did you wrong. It's for your own freedom. Because when that's you letting go. That person's going to be that person, and they're going to do and say stupid stuff, and that's them. That's not you. It's not me. Just let it go. And I know so many people who hold grudges, and they're miserable.
Yep.
If you have not listened to Lisa TerKeurst, she has that Forgiving What You Can't Forget. And so I listened to it. Did like a 35-minute sermon at a church, but I listened to that this week. And something she said, and I went back and listened to it 3 times because I wanted to make sure I heard it correctly. But she said, when you learn to forgive, it allows you to look at people and say they haven't dealt with their pain yet.
Yeah.
So you're not judging them. You're not saying they're bad people. You're just like, oh, they haven't dealt with their pain. And it just makes it easier because it may affect you, but it doesn't have anything to do with you.
Right.
So yeah, I went back and listened to that. So if you have any opportunity to listen to anything she talks about, that book,
what's
really good.
What's the
Forgiving
name again?
What You Can't Forget.
Forgiving What You Can't Forget. I like that. I like that. It's
beautiful.
so powerful.
Yeah. And one of the tools that I use is I go back to are there people out there smarter than me? Yep. Are there coaches out there who are better than me? I would say I don't know that I would say that, but thank you. But I would say,
Maybe, not sure.
um, but at the end of the day, they're not me and I'm not them. And I
Yeah.
don't want to be them and they don't want to be me. And so if we can embrace who we are and what we bring to the table, I think that demonstrates leadership because it's like what you see is what you get. I mean, there's no, like I am who I am. And that's just is what it, and like Ann said earlier, and that's going to resonate with some people and it's not going to resonate with others. You know what? And that's okay. I
Right.
mean, the world would be boring if we, like all we're like robots and bleh, who wants that? And so how I've learned to like manage some of those, because I'm a pretty confident woman, but there I have my moments. I have my moments where it's like, even my fat pants don't fit, and I'm just like, oh, and, like I just have those moments in time, but then I'm like, okay, how long am I going to choose to sit in that? Or am I going to choose to like, okay, be my own leader? Because sometimes we have to do that for ourselves, right? We have to be our own leader, be our own coach, be our own cheerleader, and say, okay, like today just is what it is. And I'm gonna either, embrace it or I can sit and be miserable, and so just learning how to show up authentically and be okay with who you are. And if you have someone who's competing against you, good on them. Go be tired. Go knock yourself out. It's astonishing to me why you let me have that much power in your life that you want to spend so much time in competition with me. Like, I'm not giving you that much power in my life. So I'm sorry that you're giving me that much power in your life. But it takes that time and that emotional, and we talk a lot about emotional intelligence, but there's a lot that goes into that. And when you know better, hopefully you do better.
Well, and to
Right.
your point, you can't lead anybody until you can lead yourself. If you're
Mm.
trying to lead other people and you're not leading yourself, that's control. That's no longer leadership. And it may look similar, but the motivation behind it is so very different. So
Mm.
until you can look yourself in the mirror and go, I'm not, I'm doing this for the wrong reason. It's the right action, but it's for the wrong reasons. Until you can take that time and do it for yourself, don't try and do it for other people because you're not leading.
Well, and the thing with control is there is no control.
Yeah,
And,
It's a
and
fabulous
I've
illusion.
an illusion.
exactly. And, I've worked for a couple of, and these were women, a couple of women bosses, that they wanted control and they were in competition
Mm.
because I knew something that they didn't, but they knew a lot of things that I didn't know. But if I knew something they didn't, they were, and it wasn't just me. I say me, but they did this with other women and other guys. They would get so upset and they would just be like laying down the law. And it's like, I'm trying to do my job here. And there was actually one where the whole group of us, there were four of us in the group, we went to her manager and said, either she goes or we all go because we couldn't
Wow.
get anything done. Every
Wow.
time we would do something, she would tell us we're doing it wrong and we'd have to redo it. And like we were getting nowhere. So we were just like, either she goes or gets redirected or we go. And it's because she was trying to control and she was in competition with us instead of being a true leader.
Mm.
And, as a leader, it's okay to say, oh, hey, tell me what you're doing here. Can you,
Yeah.
that looks really cool. Tell me what you've done here. Maybe you can teach it to the rest of the group.
Yep.
That is leadership. That is true power.
Yeah. To me, that boss just screams insecurity. Like she's just
Yeah.
screaming
Oh,
insecurity.
yeah. You don't
And
want to know you don't want to know the nickname we gave her. I'll
I
tell
can
you after we stop
okay,
recording.
I can only imagine. Um, yeah, that just yes, it just screams insecurity. And I mean, we can't know it all. We
Right.
can't. Like,
Right.
you know, it's impossible. And one of the things I love about learning from other people is their perspective on things, because I might have learned it one way, but they learned it another way. And it's like their way might actually be like, oh, well, that makes much more sense than the way that I learned it. Or vice versa. They might say, oh, well, or you can do a combination of the two and say, if we put these two ideas together, we got something really great here, right? you know, um, but that's the beauty of it is, but it takes there has to be at least some level of trust to be able to share those ideas and stuff. And then there also has to be a level of internal confidence. And it's like, if they steal my idea, they steal my idea. I mean, I've coached, oh, I can't even tell you how many times over the last 12 years I've had women say, but if I put it out there, my competition's going to steal it. And it's like, we need to unpack that, we need to talk about that, and so I mean, and I have so many stories. I had a local college steal one of my events that I was putting on locally, and I'm a one woman show. I mean, I had volunteers that, but I was like, well, imitation's the greatest form of flattery, I guess. And, it is what it is. But they ripped off my colors. I mean, they ripped off literally everything. And I went to the president of the college and we had a conversation and that went nowhere. But at the end of the day, I just put them on notice and say, I see what you did here. So they only did it for 2 years. And every time they did it, I went wearing my branded gear. And people would look and go, and I'm like, I'm the OG. Like, I, this is happening because of this. And kind of a thing. And I was just super transparent because I was always taught, like, if it's true, say it. I don't want to be slanderous and I don't have to say it in a mean way and I don't have to say it in a way, and it's like, say, I was the inspiration behind this. This particular college loved my event so much that they brought it to this campus. And that's kind of how I would preface it, but it's the truth. And so and then they were going to get me for, I mean, she's like, and I'm going to sue you for making those I'm like, oh, okay, sue me. I'm speaking the truth, so whatever. But it was a terrible conversation. But we it's but that comes once again, like Ann said, that has more to do with them than it does about me. It's like, because you didn't have an original thought, because you couldn't come up with something cool and creative like I did, you had to rip it off. Well, that says way more about you than it does about me. And there's nothing I mean, I'm never going to change that mindset, and it's not up to me to change their mindset, right? Like,
Right.
I'm just going to keep being a leader. And as a leader, like I had, um, one of the volunteers for this group was an attorney, and she was like, I would do a newspaper article about this. And I'm like, absolutely not. Absolutely not,
Yeah.
because why? Because it just starts this tit for tat and back and
Yeah.
forth, blah, blah, blah. I appreciated her sharing her thought on it. I didn't, and I always say I hate poo pooing on other people's ideas, but as a leader, I was like, I chose to handle it very differently. And I think that's a lot of being a leader too, is it's like, oh, I could have threatened to sue, like the college threatened to sue me.
Yeah.
And it's like, if anyone has the right to sue, it's me. But that's not how I approached it.
And
So
that's a lot of work. I mean, not I don't know personally, but I cannot imagine spending months and sometimes years in a courtroom trying to sue people. The negativity, oh my
yes,
God,
eh,
just let it
let
go.
it go. Yep. And it fizzled out just like I thought, because they're not me. They couldn't put on the event like I could because they're not me.
Right.
And I just kept banking on that. And after 2 years, it went away. So there, I mean, the problem resolved itself, but I went both years. You better believe I did. Um, and it's just like anything. There, nobody's you. And no one can do it quite like you can.
And there are
Right.
no truly original ideas out there. Like it's all just a regurgitation of other stuff. Like, I mean, look at how many movies Hollywood is remaking because they're
Oh,
out of ideas and they're
right.
terrible. They're terrible.
Yes.
But if you do it right, it's okay that it's a regurgitation because I go back to what I said. It's your spin on it. They come to see you. I mean, at the end of the day, as entrepreneurs, they're buying you
Yep.
and trusting you, and then you're delivering the information. If somebody can deliver it differently, it's like in this podcast that we do, sometimes we're very aligned in how we think, sometimes we're not.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
that's
okay.
okay.
That's what makes it so awesome and so much fun. It makes me giggle is you guys say stuff I wouldn't even think of.
And likewise.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Always
I
a
don't
good thing.
know.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think one of the beautiful things about this podcast is there is three different perspectives because we all have,
Yeah.
because our lived experiences have shaped how we show up as leaders, how we manage things. And there are times when I have sacrificed my family and I have sacrificed myself for trying to prove myself or, doing those things. And, but we all approach things differently, but that's the beauty of it, just because it works for me doesn't mean that's what's going to work for you. I mean, we can share our thoughts and ideas and say, hey, this is what worked for me. But the beauty of it is you get three different perspectives and you take this part from Anne, this part from Lori, and this part from me, and you make it work for yourself. And, and I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. And you can share your beautiful, wonderful stories with us in the remarks, in the comments.
I would
Yes.
love that. Yeah,
Yes, we
because
would.
I don't want to tell somebody what their challenges are in the workplace. I mean, I can make assumptions and I can Google and, but I'm sure there's challenges. I don't even have any idea of what somebody's going through. And the more we share, the more we can help each other go, oh, that's a real thing.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
And know that there are people out there who will support you, and whether it's reaching out to one of us, or just as Angie was saying, as actually we were all talking about, don't look at another woman going through something as competition. Collaborate, get together, figure it out, go to the boss and say, we're not going to put up with this anymore.
Yes.
I think that's the role that's missing in businesses, the CCO, Chief Collaboration Officer. Like go in, just get people to work together. It's not a competition. It's not one group doesn't have to be better. Every company I've ever worked in, sales was against shipping and this group was against that group. And you're just like, oh my gosh, we all have to work together to get the job done.
Yes.
Yes. And that's very true. And there's always a competition. There's always a competition, whether it's between sales reps but if you make this much in sales, then you get to go to the show where other people don't get to go to I mean, there's always all this kind of stuff and there is something about competition that makes some people work harder. But there's also something about competition that makes other people think, oh, well, I don't really care if I win. I'm just going to do the job. Or even I'll never make that. So why do I even try? So it's motivational for some people, but it's the opposite for others.
Yep. And it can make people ugly. Like I have
Yes.
seen some
Yes.
competition. I used to work for a Fortune 500 company. Now, this was back in the 90s, but even that, I mean, my point is that this hasn't changed over the decades, I guess, and just by us having this conversation, we're hoping to spark some change.
Yes.
But the what women
Yes.
do to each other, oh my word, I could tell you stories for days, and the evil and the and oof, it's
Scary.
unbelievable. It's scary.
Yeah.
And just because they felt threatened, but once again, it's like, what kind of insecurities were going on inside of them? What was their internal motivation, and and what kind of messages did they have going on inside of them that brought that ugliness out? Because it says way more about them. Yeah. So yeah, it's crazy, but that's one of the beauty things. We try to tackle some more challenging topics to open up the door for these dialogues, and to hopefully, if you're the type of woman who feels like, I need to see what that looks like first, or I need permission to open that door. You got it all day long. Open that door, bust it down, walk through it, whatever it is that works best for you. To have those conversations, and we encourage you to be assertive and stick to your authentic self and your values, and don't compromise. And if someone wants to compete against you, that says more about them than it does about you. Stay true to yourself and who you are. Show up as the leader that you are, even if you don't think you're a leader. You are a leader, and just be you. Be true to you. You don't have to prove yourself to anyone.
Right.
You're just perfect the way that you are.
I love that. I think that is just a perfect way to end. Just, what's that saying? I'm the rock that the waves beat themselves against.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to compete against me, they're going to wear themselves out. Like, you do you, boo. I'm good. I'm not going to play.
No.
And if you want that, why? Like, how sad are you?
Yeah, exactly.
Trust me, my life ain't all that.
Yeah.
That's not true. My life is pretty fabulous. I'm not going to
lie. I love it.
Oh, well, this has definitely been another great conversation. We hope that you took some really, like, you had those aha moments, or, you've got your hand on that doorknob and you're just ready to turn the handle and walk through whatever door that is. And we would love to know, seriously, share your stories. We would love to hear, your aha moments, your big takeaways. Maybe this episode, or even any of the other episodes, elicited something in you that you were like, by golly, I'm going to take that next step towards something that you maybe have been holding back on, or something along those lines. We'd love to hear those stories.
And if you just want somebody who's going to build you up, be your cheerleader, drop us a line. We will do that for free all day long.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes. We love supporting women. We are definitely, that's something all three of us are very aligned in that, and we want to support you. And yes, and no competition here.
None at all. None at all. All right. Well, good to see everybody again, and we'll see you next week.
Yes. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Unapologetically Unstoppable Women podcast. If today's conversation fired you up, inspired you, or made you laugh out loud, don't forget to hit subscribe and share this episode with another unstoppable woman in your life. Remember, you don't have to apologize for your ambition, and you never have to shrink to fit someone else's expectations. Keep showing up, keep breaking barriers, and keep living life on your own terms. Until next time, stay unapologetic, stay unstoppable.